Just turn that on for the noise. No, I know that. I'm saying on you.
Yeah. Take a minute. I'm calling it.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know.
Test. It's not working. Test. There we go.
It's been so worse. But I've been really just blessed to be able to all the stuff. That's the other thing, right? You're trying to give them opportunities to grow.
Yeah.
That's my benchmark. So when it's blue, it's muted. When this is blue, it's muted here, which I never knew we could do.
Okay, that's my
And
bad.
so when I unmuted it, then we were good to go.
My bad.
No, it's okay. It's fine. I just like, ah.
Good morning, all, and welcome to the County of Berrien. It's a pleasure to have you all here today. I see Commissioner Yarbrough is walking in the door.
Oh.
She's back. She may be getting herself settled in, so we'll wait for her to come in the room, but we'll get started. Just as a reminder to please silence or turn off all electronic devices while we conduct our meeting. Any materials that you wish to have distributed to the board, you can do so by giving it to Dave Volrath over here on the corner, because our Sergeant of Arms is missing today. He'll be here, I think, later. He had an appointment that required his absence. Welcome back, Commissioner
Good morning.
Yarbrough. So good to see you.
Good morning.
We were just doing a little bit of housekeeping, telling everybody the order of the meeting, and it's a pleasure to have you here. During public comment, if you wish to address the board, please do so by going to the podium, state your name, your jurisdiction, and you have 2 minutes to address the board. With that, we'll do roll call.
Bell,
Here.
Curran, Freeling,
Present.
Harrison,
Here.
Hinkleman,
Here.
Majerick,
Here.
Ott,
In the chair.
Pitchford, Ballrath,
Here.
Werfel,
Here.
Yarborough, Elliott. Madam Chair, you have 10 present, 2 absent.
Thank you very much. I did hear from our chair. He will be arriving a little bit late. He had some business that he needed to attend to that will have him closer to the 9 o'clock point of the hour. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from June 27th, 2024.
I'll make that motion.
All right, it's Commissioner Chokwe, support by Commissioner Volrath. Any discussion on those? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, minutes are approved. Requisition review.
Good morning. Does anybody have any questions about the requisitions? I did give everybody a copy because that came out a little bit late last night. No questions?
Everybody have a chance to review the requisition.
Thank you.
We will consider that at our 10:30 meeting, but we will have it go around the table for signature now. And now we come to the point of scheduled discussion, and we have 3 different discussions that we have today. The first one that's on our agenda is Maureen Adams, and she's going to come to talk to us about some donations coming for our veterans. Excellent. Please. Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for having me. I was approached
by the two gentlemen here, if you'd like to come up, Les Fairbanks and Chuck Carpenter, who happen to be former drivers of our DAV program. And they are, belong to the Southwestern Michigan Card Collectors Club. And last year, they were kind enough to give us a donation, and they had an event, their 4th of July car show in Waterville. And they have again chosen to award that to our Soldier and Sailors Relief Fund. So they're here to present a check to us today. Want to talk about it, Chuck?
Well, we had a little better weather, so this year we're supported by the Waterville Downtown Association, which gives us run of the streets and parking lots and things like that. And we do all the organizations and fundraising. We have some wonderful sponsors that cover all of our expenses, so everything that we make actually goes into the fund. This year it amounts to $2,070 and actually 61 cents. We want to make sure we get every last dime in there. We'd like to present it to Maureen, and we used to, and we've been doing this for quite a few years, we used to make a donation to VA Hospital in Battle Creek via food cards, gas cards that when they had overnight patients at the hospital, they would give them a food card for Wendy's and McDonald's and things like that. They have public transportation that takes them from the hospital downtown, so they're not always eating hospital food. Maureen made us aware of the Soldiers and Sailors Fund a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
And we thought, we're holding this in Berrien County, if we can benefit the Berrien County veterans, our sponsors think a lot of it, keeping it local. We think it's great, and we intend on keep doing it if we can, so.
Hopefully come back
Thank
next
you.
year with a little more.
Yeah, every year.
So, sure. And I did share with these gentlemen on Monday, because we did speak on Monday, but the funds that they provided us last year, we used for, we participated in the PIT count, which is point in time to locate homeless in Berrien County. And so we purchased blankets and provided backpacks with some food items. So that's what we did with the money. And I'm not sure what we'll do with it again this year, but I'm sure it'll be equally as worthy.
I
So.
think you can find a spot.
That is fantastic, and we're so appreciative of your contribution. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Commissioner Yarbrough.
I just wanted to say something, to the gentleman.
Maureen?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something to, Les Fairbanks, when they said your name, we're schoolmates. Thank you so.
Proud
Thank-
members of Ben
Ben
Harbor
Harbor
class
High
of
School,
1959.
1959.
Go Tigers.
Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Fairbanks,
Yeah, Mr.
thank you
Carpenter.
so much for thank you very much for your commitment and dedication to the veterans of our county. We appreciate all that you do, and thank you for coming and presenting that
Thank
donation.
you. It's
Thank
an
you.
honor to do it, and as Chuck said, we've been doing it to Battle Creek VA Hospital for many years, but when we found out about this fund, we wanted to keep it local. So we're very honored to do it.
He's got to get his wife to a doctor's appointment.
Understood. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that's a great way to kick off our discussion. So, the next item that we have scheduled is an update from Jill Adams on the Parks Playground. This is regarding the vendors and the bids that have been received.
Thank you for this opportunity. We, just a quick update on the Silver Beach County Park Playground project. We went out to bid for that construction project for about a month's time between May into June. And we were asking for bids from single general construction companies for this project. 5 interested parties attended the optional pre-bid meeting in this room and then as well as on site. We also had 3 playground suppliers submit considerations for approved equal projects. Through all that, we were able to open the bids on June 5th. We received 1 bid at that time, and that bid came from BG Construction and Engineering. Since then, we've been working through a few things with our design contractor DLZ, and we are excited to be able to award this bid to BG Construction and Engineering out of Buchanan local. And we are going to be, how we bid out was a base bid for the main project that includes the large structures, some benches, and the surfacing, as well as some hard surface connection and ADA accessible parking spaces. On top of that, we were able to also, or we will be adding alternate number 1 to that project for a total of $1,063,000. And on top of that, we are still fundraising for this project. Our overall goal, which will include the construction project, our work with DLZ, our design contractor, as well as some additional projects that we would like to add on top of that, like additional benches, some musical instruments, and some ground level play. Our overall fundraising goal remains at 2.5 million, which we've had all along. And with that, we will be able to bring forward an exceptional playground at Silver Beach.
Marvelous.
Better turn my microphone back on. I appreciate the update. I know that Finance Committee had opened or had received those bids and sent it back, so I appreciate the update. Are there any questions for Jill? Commissioner Pitchford?
Could you just give a sense of where we are in the fundraising right now and then where individuals could go if they wanted to support just one more time?
Absolutely. So with our goal of 1.25 million, we are currently at 89% of our way there. So I'm really excited about that number, but we do have some additional funds to raise. In order to reach that goal, we are in need of approximately $139,000. And if anyone's interested in donating, we continue to work with the Berrien Community Foundation. They have an online donation portal at their website. That's the best place to go. That gives information about the project and some updates, as well as a donate button. If someone wants to drop a check off, they're located on South State Street in St. Joseph, and that is acceptable as well. For more information, some in-depth project updates and when we started and how we got to where we are, the Berrien County website has a few more details about the project.
And I will say that the portal that they have at the Community Foundation's easy to use and navigate, and made my donation and got her done. And yeah, it's very easy. And I appreciate the community partners that we've had in this endeavor, because Silver Beach is just such a gem of a park, and having that playground equipment there for families to use as an enhancement to the beach area is just wonderful. So appreciate all your work.
Jill, if you had to estimate the number of talks you've given between Rotary, the community groups, it seems like every week you're out selling this project. Could you estimate the total number of visits you've made?
Sure. So we've been at this project for quite a while. I would say I've been in front of about 10 different community groups throughout the county. I've got a couple more scheduled later, early fall, actually. I do go out, and I'm happy if anyone's interested in having a speaker. I like to talk about the Berrien County Parks. We have 650 acres. We have 7 properties. Happy to come and talk about that. But I'm always mentioning this big project that we're working on for the playground. So I've been able to get in front of a number of groups. The result of some of that has been grant money and donations. So very grateful for the opportunity to get in front of people, but also that positive support that I've gotten back.
Good work.
Are there any other questions for Jill? Seeing none. Jill, thank you so much for the update and
Yes.
keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been
Madam
great.
Chair,
Yes,
I was hoping I could provide a little bit of background on the next topic.
sure, absolutely. The next topic, for those who don't have an agenda, is related to 911, and we have Caitlin Samsel here, as well as Chris Swihart. This is related to computer aid dispatch.
So before Caitlin gets going, what you're about to hear is, it's an information update on what's available, what services are being provided by the county through the 911 dispatch. The point that I hope really gets made today is that Caitlin and Chris's teams are both highly committed to providing customer service, but they're also highly committed to ensuring that what is provided, what is committed to, is sustainable. And so I know that some of you have received phone calls from members of the public, members of, it could be a fire chief, it could be an ambulance director, it could be an elected official. And my goal for today's update was just to take a step back, explain what 911 does, explain what 911 could do, and then explain the process to explore the potential for adding additional levels of service. But also really take some time to be thoughtful about, if we are going to get into an additional line of service, what are we going to do to ensure it's sustainable, that it's accurate? Because with the use of CAD, we are definitely taking on some risk. So when first responders are going out to fire scenes, to accident scenes, et cetera, we've got to make sure that that information is accurate down to feet, and that it's available 24/7. So kind of a long-winded intro. Caitlin will walk you through all of this, but I'm really glad that they're here today, and I want you all to take some time, digest this, and then ask any questions that you have. Caitlin, please go ahead and get started.
Thanks so much. Okay, yes, so we're going to be talking about the opportunity for CAD to be extended out to our field responders, so police, fire, EMS potential. So this is our dispatch CAD, and of course, this is a high-level view. It's the one-screen version, everything condensed down. But what you see is the call intake, as far as the phone information that comes in, the actual calls that go into pending that our dispatchers enter. And then down at the bottom with all the rainbow colors is where our units are dispatched to the different calls. On the left-hand side, you're seeing the call for service screen where we actually work, where we enter all that data in. So this is where it starts, right, in the dispatch center. There we go. Okay, so since we put CAD, this version of CAD in about 2 years ago, we've been wanting to extend out the opportunity for our field responders to have greater visibility into that. That would provide some further information, which I'll talk about. So at our last 911 board meeting, we decided to create a committee. We've had a recent push again from our field responders for this opportunity to have access to this information. So the committee's been created with County IS, with 911. We've got representatives from the Police Service Council, from the Firefighters, Fire Chiefs Association. They just met yesterday and officially appointed their representatives. And then Commissioner Volrath has also volunteered to be on our committee. So this is just a image of to kind of represent the agencies that we serve. So in our county, we service about 50 agencies. We have 49 directly, and then we also have agencies that are outside the county that respond in. And as you can see, that ranges between police, fire, and EMS. We've got even a drone agency that provides medical first response. And most of our fire departments are the ones that provide that otherwise. And then we've got some agencies that are public safety officers that do police and fire. So if I can get both my computers to advance, there we go. So just to give you an idea of what this looks like out in the field. So this is the mobile CAD. So this would be on an MDT, so a mobile data terminal. So it's a computer, a laptop that is in their conveyance vehicle or apparatus. There's also some options that can be on like a Windows tablet as well. But this, again, very similar to what's in our dispatch CAD, shows the unit list. They can see the other officers that are in the area. The map, unfortunately, you can't really see the details of it, but what's on there, right now, we have Berrien County Sheriff's Department on mobile CAD, Niles City Police Department, and then SMACUS. The Sheriff's Department has AVL, automatic vehicle location. And so we can see them show up on the map. We can see them move around. We can see what direction they're going. And the officers can see this as well in their mobile. As you can kind of see on there, there are names and arrows. And that provides them greater situational awareness. They can self-dispatch to calls. They can back each other up. They can see the pending calls, all those that are active. What they're really excited about having a lot of times, and I'm sure the sheriff can speak to this more, is the ability to see all the CAD notes, right? So we're taking the call and information is going in. Well, we're not just managing that one call. We're managing a whole slew of tasks and calls. And so if further information has come in and we're on another task, we might not be able to provide that update to the officer as quickly as they would like. With mobile CAD, they can see the notes coming in live. And then they can look at the other calls notes as well. They've got that visibility in there. They can also create a call themselves if they wanted to. They've got routing. That's not currently a feature that's available that the Sheriff's Department has on, but it is available in the mobile suite that they could have routing directions and everything in the mobile as well as they can change their status on scene. They're clearing the call. We have a procedure or rule in our county that they're not supposed to silently do that. They're still supposed to do it over the radio for situational awareness for everyone, especially because not everyone has mobile CAD. But that they can do that. If the radio traffic is heavy, they can change their status particularly and then advise us as soon as they can. There's also the option to have lean and NCIC access. So that is being able to run people for wants, warrants, driving status, missing persons, stolen vehicles, all of that. They can also see notifications. If we have a be on the lookout out for a missing person, we can attach a picture in there. We can attach a stolen vehicle in there with pictures, with details. And that will then have the ability for them to access that, see it, say it happened on the morning shift or coming in the afternoon. They're now aware of that without having to have gone through a particular briefing process. They can see that and the details of that record. There's also messaging. They can message between each other. They can message dispatch. So if they have a question, they don't have to call in on the phone necessarily or hop on the radio and tie the radio channel up for that. They can do that through messaging if it's something that's non-emergent. They can also attach documents to calls for service. So if they needed to enter something in, they could attach that and then communicate that to the dispatcher. Now, what's newer in the discussion are the mobility applications. So this is generally phone and tablet based. These are apps, right? So it does similar to what the mobile CAD does, but in an app form. You can see kind of what it looks like a little bit. Again, they can change their status. They can also have geofencing. So that way, especially in the instance of a fire department, they were to be dispatched on a call. As soon as they leave the perimeter, the geofence perimeter of their station, it will automatically put them en route. Once they get to the bubble around the scene, it can automatically put them on scene. Or they can choose to push the buttons as well. And that's been brought up a lot by our fire departments because of congestion on radio talk groups at times. So then they can change their status without having to have that marker of time be delayed. They also have the option for routing here, as well as pre-plans is a module that's available. You can kind of see that map up in the upper right-hand corner of the tablet. They can see Google Street View through this as well. And again, one of the things that they want the most is the ability to see the CAD notes in real time. So then they can see all that. Again, they can see situationally aware what others are going to as well. I want to make sure I'm touching on everything. They can have lean NCIC access, not fire departments, but police, if they were to choose the Shield Force app. If that was an option that the county was on board with providing, because of course there are a lot of CJIS concerns with criminal justice information systems. So that is a thing that's available, but that the agency and the county can choose whether or not to utilize that feature for those reasons. All right, so getting back in, now that you know a little bit about what CAD Mobile and CAD Mobility are, getting a little bit back into the committee and what our goals are here. So we really wanted to determine the technical infrastructure needs. So we met with Tyler Tech just this past Monday to discuss offering infrastructure needs, right? IS needs to know how many servers they need to have, where those servers need to reside. Is there fiber that needs to be put in between agencies? What kind of hardware is needed? How many devices are we talking about? All kinds of different things. We also need to determine the demarcation of support between what the county is going to support and what the agencies will support. So that's where we kind of get into a little bit of the liability concerns. If the app goes down, who's supporting that? Is that the county infrastructure? Was there some interruption or some problem? And now an agency has come to rely on that technology and it's not available, right? So we need to make sure that it's as resilient as possible, just like our dispatch CAD system. We need it to be up as much as possible and ready for us in the events of emergencies. So that's really where we're at with this. Where does that support line stop between what the agency, something's not working at 3 a.m. Are they calling Chris and his team in IS, or are they calling their local IT? Also, a lot of the individual departments don't have their own IT. They contract out. So it's not a 24/7 available thing for a lot of them. So when we've come through even our last CAD update right now, right, we've got Berrien County Dispatch, Niles City Dispatch, which are both on the same CAD system. County infrastructure is in Niles City at their dispatch center. And then we've got the Sheriff's Department mobile, we've got Niles City's mobile, and then we have Smackus Ambulance on mobile. We had weeks worth of challenges working through things that changed between the older version and the newer version. So now we're going to exponentially increase that as we bring on potentially, close to 50 agencies doing this. So how do we support that? And that ties into the funding considerations. There's licensing, again, the agency devices. Are they providing the hardware, or is the county providing the hardware, the connectivity costs, the county's IS infrastructure and support, personnel costs, if we need to add people to be available to help support all of this, annual maintenance fees, project implementation charges from Tyler, which I think a lot of agencies didn't think about. When the agencies went out and got a quote to see what it would be like to bring in what they wanted. And they're like, okay, great, no problem. And I think the county's covering that implementation cost of $30,000 plus. Like, no, that's not something that we've, come to a conclusion on yet, right? So that's all part of the funding considerations of how this gets funded up front and then ongoing. Also, how many? So that was one of our first meetings that we had as to how many devices are we talking about? How many users are we talking about? So it was decided to start at the maximum potential numbers of access points and devices to determine what would need to be built out on the infrastructure side. Police, fire, EMS, they provided their numbers. We've got about potentially 400 new devices jumping on. Is that accurate number?
I think by the time you count, because we didn't get the vehicles from the fire side, so I have to assume on the police side they were like 80 vehicles. Had 180 users, 82 vehicles, fire 168 users. I have to assume there's also going to be close to another 80 vehicles. What we're looking at is adding potentially 500, whether it's a phone, tablet, IDT in a vehicle. 500 endpoints, new endpoints that aren't controlled by Berrien County, right? These are all maintained by the agencies. So Caitlin touched on the CJIS requirements. Because CAD's hosted internally, we manage authentication, right? And so there are certain things that we're gonna have to provide or make available to those agencies in order to secure those devices. Especially if we're transmitting CJIS, there's requirements that remote devices have MDM. That's why we're going to 365 and adding all this stuff on the phone. Who's providing that? Who's maintaining that? Who's supporting it? And if the expectation is going to be that we have 24/7 support round the clock, something goes down in the middle of the night, I can tell you with Tim's and Talon, a lot of these people call me today. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to maintain that with 50 plus agencies. So we're going to have mechanisms in place in the IS department to support that. We have currently countywide about 1,200 devices. You're talking about adding 500 to our network. So, I mean, we're gonna have expenses in terms of hardware, cost, bandwidth to support these things, and staffing increases in order to maintain that level of support. That being said, the mobile app is very different. So part of that discussion is instead of connecting directly into our network like the full mobile client, the mobile app connects up to the cloud and Tyler server, and we're just providing a conduit that relays data. So, I mean, the level of support is going to be impacted by that. It could be less of an overhead on county burden and, you know, put more out on the agencies in terms of providing support of that. But that's things that we're gonna have to discuss.
Also, so one of our final goals, right, is to create kind of a menu of options. So that includes cost considerations, like Chris has just talked about, and necessary hardware specifications. So that way we can bring back to the agencies in the field what's available today, because we do have some availability of getting them information through text messaging today. And then what new offerings are available with mobile and mobility and what that means. So Chris's office is working on setting up a demo for agencies and for the county, right? To have everybody be able to learn more about the products and be able to make informed decisions. So we'll have Tyler Technologies, our CAD vendor, come in and do a demonstration for us, answer questions so that we can create that menu of what's available and that information out to the agencies. So this is a process that we're going through. We've actually gotten, I think, a lot done already in the past couple of weeks, but as soon as we have that demo scheduled, that'll be the next big step. And we're trying to target August for that. So if anyone has any questions for us based on any of that information, we're happy to answer those.
Thank you, Caitlin, for that presentation. Are there any questions for Caitlin or Chris? Yes.
I saw on the presentation, there was a cell phone and then a tablet for the mobile CAD for the application. Do fire, police, EMS on board, do they have Wi-Fi or anything that will be used? Because I could also foresee that the LTE, the kind of 4G data could start to drop in certain points and be a problem as well.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up that consideration. And Chris can speak to the connectivity with cradle points and whatnot, the different ways to do it, right? The Sheriff's Department has MDTs right now that have GPS chips in them, but you can have pucks or other devices as well. And obviously with a cell phone, it's got its own connectivity. Chris, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, so like in the cars today, they have cradle points that rely on cellular, Verizon. Same thing with the mobile app. You're going to depend on the signal strength of wherever the cell phone is at that time, or the tablet or the device. If there's no cell signal, you're not going to be able to get updates. It's, you know, but that's outside of our control. That's something that's provided by the cell companies. There are ways to mitigate it in the cars. We could put multiple cell chips. One that's like Verizon and one from AT&T, right? And so if maybe Verizon has less coverage, AT&T has better coverage, it would fail over to whichever one is stronger. But, you know, that again, that's something that we're gonna have to discuss. Who's providing that, who's paying for that, you know, or you just set the expectations, right? And when you start talking about liability and those kind of things, there has to be that MOU of understanding. These are the things we're going to provide. These are the things that we can guarantee. This is how we're going to provide support. These are the things that are on you, and understand that these are limitations. With the mobility app, is the expectation that it's a best attempt, best available, right? Or is it, we need to keep this operational 24/7, 365? You know, are we going to provide next business day support? Is it going to be 24/7? Those are questions that hopefully the committee can help us answer.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure everybody understands going in what the options are, what the capabilities are, and what responsibilities are.
Other questions, Commissioner Yarbrough?
I don't know if this is a question, but think about when we first started and all of our communities had a different system. Are we to where we're all on the same whatever them RPMs or whatever those things are we working, to be that in your study, adding more? So is it to make us all be able to work
The
and talk to each
interoperability.
other? Because this is what they're finding out about the Secret Service. All those policemen were there with different instruments on, could you hear it? Could you know? And so is that our goal to get towards?
It provides greater visibility into the information faster and greater situational awareness. So yeah, agencies are knowing what all is happening in their areas and able to provide better assistance to each other. It certainly aids in that regard.
So much.
They'll all be centrally connected to our system. And so we host it in our data center. That's providing them access into that application. So they'll all have access to that same application.
Thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Harrison?
What's the attitude of the state of Michigan towards integrating with their law enforcement agencies? And also, how about our friends south of the border? Will there be much integration with them?
With Michigan State Police, they have actually approached us in the past. They do this throughout, of course, because they're statewide, they have to approach each county or jurisdiction to be able to get the CAD into their patrol cars. And they have approached us about this. They are interested in having our CAD in their patrol cars. As far as across the border, we have not really had any, I'm not gonna say interest, but we haven't had anybody come to us asking for that. So that hasn't really been part of this discussion right now. We're more on the radios as far as across the border than the CAD system.
Other questions? Commissioner Hinkleman?
I don't know quite how to ask the question. The technology sounds great. I mean, it just sounds like it's needed and it's great. The user, the person behind the wheel, we don't want to get them distracted. And so I mean, it's like, to me, it's almost like an overload. If you're paying attention to the driving, but you got to know that, I mean, I don't know if those two things go together as well as they should. And so my concern would be for the guy that's behind the wheel, the person that's behind the wheel, how much overload is there. And so I'm concerned for the officers trying to utilize the system while in transit, I guess, is that a thing or is that not a thing? I mean, just to reiterate, I mean, the technology sounds great, but does it put anybody in harm's way?
Well, another question for the sheriff, because I mean, his guys are using it today and how they manage that.
I mean, we've changed even as citizenry.
Yeah.
We're only allowed a one-touch phone now, and you're doing a lot more behind the wheel now, so.
So obviously from our end, we've got policies and that on the distracted part, as Caitlin mentioned. Like, one of the things that police and fire are both looking for is the CAD notes. So that you're looking at hopefully before you start or when you get to the scene, you can check it before doing it. So that's always an issue of distracted driving, multitasking. We've done that for years. We've had to use the radio and drive at the same time. There are exceptions, for that. But we want everybody to be safe. So, we've got some policies in that. I was going to speak, but, I serve as the chair of the Police Service Council. I just want to thank Caitlin and Chris. I also attend the fire chiefs meeting. This is a big issue to our first responders. They would like this technology. I totally understand. As busy as Chris is, it's taking on a lot. So there's gonna be a lot the committee goes through. I appreciate the first meeting that we had. I heard from some of the chiefs. I am on that committee from the law enforcement side. As we work through it, we'll look at it. There's going to be cost issues, obviously, how that gets done. But, the issue of knowing where the cars are for the first responders to get the CAD notes, is very, very important. And just radio traffic. I know from the fire chiefs, I mean, they're having to call and then they get multiple trucks call they're in service. So this technology can help from a dispatching standpoint too. As busy as they are, we appreciate everything they do, but the radio gets tied up just from, trucks going en route and everything else, where this technology may minimize that radio traffic.
A couple quick points too from what the sheriff just talked about. So in the fire trucks, there are multiple individuals. Usually you've got a driver and then an officer generally. And so that it wouldn't be the driver either. That would be tasked with paying attention to the screen, right? They need to focus on driving this really large apparatus. And then as far as being able to see where vehicles are, the nice feature about the mobility app is that it goes with the person if it's on a cell phone. So if they have an MDT, for instance, if the sheriff's department or Niles City were also to jump onto mobility, then it would, once they got far enough apart from the car, it would break the tether. And now we know where the car was at and where the individual was. So for instance, like in a foot pursuit, they're going through alleys or through a field or something like that. We can see where they're at and be able to provide better support to them, as well as where their vehicle was left.
So based on the GPS and the.
Yeah,
phone,
GPS.
So it's able to leverage the device which they have in their pocket.
And one officer from one department will be able to see where a county officer is in the head.
Yeah, as long as they, as long as they all have the service.
If they have a cell phone, yeah.
Well,
Madam Chair.
we do appreciate the updates and, yes.
I'd just like to say, from the meeting that we had, the 911 meeting, some of these chiefs are very anxious to get this moving yesterday, so. They're doing a good job of keeping them back, saying, hey, there's a lot of legwork left to go.
It sounds like staff is definitely working on.
Yeah, I can't downplay also the cybersecurity aspect of this, right? 500 endpoints, potentially we don't have purview into. There are not county devices. Every agency has varying level of technical expertise, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm blessed with a very knowledgeable and talented team here, but you know, there's things that we have to do that we do to protect our devices. If we're allowing that access into our network, you know, there are risks there, and that's something that we have to evaluate.
Right.
Just as a follow-up point on that, so just keep thinking about liability and costs. Chris is keenly aware, over the last 2 months, Grand Traverse County has been digging out of a data breach that had an absolutely massive impact on all of their operations, from 911 to courts to sheriff's office. And that's just in the last 2 months. Over the last 3 months, you look at Borges Hospital over in Kalamazoo, massive data breach, literally had them going back to paper invoices, paper prescriptions.
Wow.
This is a absolutely real concern. And if he's nervous, we all should be nervous. Now, with that said, to any of you that are getting calls from your first responders, from your local officials, this is one I just wanted to get this on today's agenda so that you are all aware that there is a committee that's up and running. There's a committee that's going to be taking a deep dive into whether or not this can be rolled out in a way that is absolutely solid, is sustainable, and that if there are in fact costs that need to be shared, that they're taking their time to think about an equitable way of sharing those costs. If you get more calls, steer them back to the committee. That is the best advice that I can offer.
I can't stress how costly CAD, full-blown CAD mobile, very expensive.
Sure. And
we had a quote to add 5 units here the other day, just 5 fire units to get an idea, over $30,000. So their licensing consideration, software costs, maintenance costs, ongoing costs, because every year Tyler increases, right? They have their 5%, 7%, whatever it is. So we have to keep that in mind and how that's going to be paid for.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So we are bumping up against the time. Are there any more questions from the board on this topic? We're going to have a whole lot more information flowing to the admin committee and then to the full board.
Absolutely. I think this is just the beginning of that discussion. I appreciate you bringing it to our attention and helping us to kind of get knowledgeable of what the requests are that are out there and what the impacts could be for the county, as well as how we partner with those local units. And so more to come on that. Appreciate the work that's been done. I hear that the timeline, you guys are trying to work expeditiously in getting those questions answered. So appreciate that.
We do have one last piece of business before you go to public comments.
Okay.
And this is probably the most important thing on your day. And that is a formal invitation and entry visa issued on behalf of the great state of Hager to the board. This document had me laughing for a solid day. So on behalf of Supervisor DiMaggio, and I believe he's taken the title Field Marshal Colovis, This was delivered to me to be handed out to all of you. This document is your welcome document for next week's meeting when you all will be at Hager Township, 2 weeks, sorry. So I'm gonna hand these out and please take a minute to read this. It is going to make you chuckle. And when you see Izzy, just make sure you thank him for the visa that allows you free passage in and out of his township. So Dave, if you'd be willing to hand those out.
Appreciate that very much. And while that's going around, our night meeting is on August 1st up in Hager at their township hall. And so we appreciate the entry visa. With that, we will open it up for public comment if there's anyone here that would wish to address the board. Would you be so kind? Thank you. Please do so by coming to the podium, state your name, jurisdiction, 2 minutes. All right, I see no one running to the podium. So if there's no other business, we stand adjourned. Oh.
Ask a question.
Okay.
Madam Chair, the last time, the meeting that we had last week, there was a question raised by a citizen, and I have to be running for drain commissioner, but it gave me pause and gave me question. I'd like to ask the administrator, if I can, to, the question was asked about how much money we've got in that project, the Tanner Creek project. And so I wanted to find out, well, we haven't had any bills and they were coming in very regularly.
Yeah.
And so I'm concerned, of course, for, how much is additional. I think that I'd like to know when the last time we were billed for that. And then, is there anything outstanding out there and where that's at? So if I can get that information, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Sure. With respect, what I'd like to do is I'll run up to my office, I'll pull up my laptop. To the board, we sent out a spreadsheet last Thursday showing the total on the legal expenses tied to Tanner Creek. I'll pull that up and I believe it's noted in there, the last invoice that was processed. And there's definitely been a gap between today and that last invoice. I'll get that information in front of the finance committee and then share it with the full board. No problem.
Thank you for that question, and thank you, Brian, for getting to that. If there are no other questions or comments from the board,